Welcome to Boring History, where ancient mysteries unfold in whispers of time. Today, we journey into the unknown, exploring the Green Pyramid, secret tunnels said to stretch toward Egypt, and the enigma of giant stone spheres that defy explanation. The story of the Green Pyramid is one of those ancient enigmas that seem to hover on the edge of archaeology and legend, a monument that scholars mention quietly, sometimes skeptically, and that seekers of lost civilizations treat as if it is a forgotten key to the past. It is not part of the famous list of Egyptian pyramids that fill textbooks and tourist guides, nor is it officially celebrated among the wonders of the ancient world. Instead, it sits in fragments of records, scattered mentions, and hushed tales from travelers who claim to have seen unusual ruins that shimmered in shades of green under the sun. The pyramid has long been a puzzle, not because its existence is fully proven, but because traces of it keep reappearing in the most unlikely of places, forcing questions about what exactly it was, who built it, and why its memory was almost erased from the mainstream narrative of history. Some researchers suggest the name Green Pyramid might come from the weathered color of its stones. Over centuries, limestone and granite, when exposed to particular minerals in soil and moisture, can take on a faint greenish hue, a tint that would make such a structure stand apart against the desert's golden sands. Others argue that it might not have been a simple trick of weathering, but a deliberate choice by its builders, who may have used stone with a natural green tint, perhaps serpentine or a copper-stained granite, materials that would shimmer in the light. Ancient architects across the world often chose materials with symbolic meaning. Green was not a random color in the ancient imagination. It was the color of growth, rebirth, vegetation, and eternal life. In Egypt, Osiris himself, the god of resurrection, was often depicted with green skin to symbolize his role as the lord of renewal. If a pyramid was deliberately made green, it might have been a conscious attempt to embody the concept of eternal life, to ensure that whoever rested within would be bound forever to the cycle of rebirth. The Green Pyramid has been linked in fragments to the Fayum-Osis region, where archaeologists discovered remains of lesser-known pyramids dating to the Middle Kingdom. Some records attribute it to Amenemhotep, a pharaoh of the 12th dynasty who built both the Black Pyramid at Dosha and another pyramid near Hawara. His reign was marked by engineering ambition, including vast waterworks and monumental projects. Yet, what makes the Green Pyramid stand apart is that it is said to have been unusual, perhaps experimental, perhaps a fusion of symbolism and stonecraft not repeated elsewhere. Travelers' accounts describe a structure where blocks seemed smoother than the rough, hewn stones of nearby ruins, with hints of a glaze or mineral sheen. Some tales claim that when the sun hit its surface at certain times of the day, the pyramid seemed to glow faintly, as if radiating a green aura across the desert sands. Legends often outlie facts. The stories surrounding the Green Pyramid tell of chambers filled with inscriptions never catalogued, tunnels leading deeper into bedrock than normal, and peculiar acoustics that made whispered words carry in strange ways. The local communities, often protective of their heritage and wary of outsiders, passed down accounts of an ancient structure that was avoided for centuries, a place where animals grew restless, and where tools would sometimes break unexpectedly, as if the pyramid itself carried a hidden force. To skeptics, such details are exaggerations born from folklore, but to seekers of mysteries, they represent a tantalizing hint that this structure carried knowledge beyond what official records reveal. Some researchers have connected the Green Pyramid to lost traditions of energy and sound. In fringe theories that stretch beyond mainstream archaeology, pyramids are not simply tombs but machines, carefully engineered to resonate with Earth's natural frequencies. The idea of a green, tinted pyramid adds another layer to this speculation, for green corresponds to the heart in ancient symbolic systems, a central balance point in the spectrum of energy. Could the pyramid's design and material choice have been part of an attempt to harness or channel a forgotten science? While archaeologists maintain pyramids were primarily funerary monuments, there is little doubt that their builders understood far more about stone, alignment, acoustics, and mathematics than conventional history often admits. The enigma of the Green Pyramid deepens when one considers why it is not prominently recorded. Egypt was meticulous about its monuments. Pharaohs carved their names, their titles, their achievements on stone so they would echo through eternity. Yet the Green Pyramid, if it truly existed as described, slipped into obscurity. Was it because it collapsed early, its structure unsound? Was it deliberately dismantled, its stones repurposed into later temples and towns? Or was it erased from records for reasons political or spiritual, perhaps tied to a dynasty that fell into disgrace? In history, erasure is often more telling than remembrance. To blot out a monument so striking implies that it carried a weight that later rulers or priests did not want remembered. Travel accounts from the 18th and 19th centuries speak of mounds of stone partially buried by sand, their surfaces catching light strangely, giving the illusion of green glass under the sun. European explorers noted such ruins in their diaries, but many dismissed them as natural rock formations or collapsed walls. Only in hindsight, with modern technology and satellite imaging, have some patterns begun to emerge, suggesting that beneath the sands of Egypt lie structures yet unexcavated, pyramids that may not fit neatly into the accepted sequence of dynastic architecture. The Green Pyramid lingers in this category, not fully confirmed, not fully denied, existing in a liminal space between archaeology and myth. Some point toward evidence near Darsha, where Amenemhat Tellur's ruined pyramid lies, its limestone casing weathered to an unusual shade. Others argue the Green Pyramid might not even be Egyptian in origin, but a remnant of a much older culture that predated the pharaohs. In this interpretation, what Egypt inherited was a land already touched by forgotten builders, whose techniques and purposes were lost. Such ideas are often dismissed by scholars as speculative, yet the silence around the Green Pyramid fuels such speculation. The desert is vast, the shifting sands cover and uncover ruins unpredictably, and the possibility that entire structures lie hidden is not far-fetched. Archaeologists admit that even today, new tombs and temples continue to surface unexpectedly, so the notion of a pyramid forgotten beneath sand is not outside reason. What captivates those who chase the Green Pyramid is not simply whether it existed, but what it represents. It embodies the idea that history is incomplete, that even in the most studied of lands, mysteries remain. Egypt, with its catalogued dynasties and exhaustively documented monuments, still holds secrets. If a pyramid once gleamed with a green hue and carried symbolism that has been lost, then what else about the ancient world has slipped beyond the reach of our written records? Was this pyramid part of a lost ritual landscape, aligned with stars now forgotten? Was it designed to connect with a cosmic pattern, as so many ancient monuments appear to do? The answers remain buried, perhaps beneath dunes, perhaps in neglected texts, perhaps in oral traditions that were never written down. The atmosphere around the Green Pyramid is heavy with the stillness of unanswered questions. For the careful historian, it is a reminder of how little survives the erosion of time. For the dreamer, it is a doorway into the imagination, a glimpse of a past where stones glowed under the desert's sun, where builders encoded secrets into their monuments, and where memory itself was sometimes intentionally obscured. The sands of Egypt are not just grains of quartz, they are layers of silence that cover the echoes of civilizations, whispers that invite us to listen, but never quite reveal the full story. Beneath the earth, where light seldom touches and silence lingers like a second skin, there are passages carved by hands that belong to a world long gone. These hidden tunnels, winding, narrow, and sometimes impossibly vast, have always haunted the imagination of those who stumble across mentions of them in forgotten texts, archaeological whispers, or local folklore. They are not simple caves formed by chance, but deliberate constructions that suggest a purpose beyond survival, passages that seem to link temples, pyramids, and cities in ways that defy easy explanations. They have been spoken of in Egypt, in Mesopotamia, in the Andes, and even in Europe, a web of underground veins that appear to stretch beneath the very foundations of ancient civilizations, as if humanity's first great builders understood not only how to raise monuments into the sky, but also how to sink them into the earth. The tunnels of Egypt are among the most intriguing. Accounts from early explorers tell of shafts descending into darkness beneath pyramids and temples, leading into corridors that branch endlessly, their walls sometimes marked with inscriptions, sometimes bare and silent. Beneath the Giza Plateau, stories persist of entire networks carved into bedrock, tunnels said to connect the Great Pyramid to the Sphinx, and the Sphinx to the Nile. Local workers in the 19th century spoke of hidden entrances and doors that would suddenly reveal a stairway plunging into the earth, only to be sealed off again by authorities who feared collapse or looting. The idea that beneath the visible wonders of Egypt lies a mirror world, a shadow kingdom of stone, remains one of the most persistent mysteries. Some archaeologists acknowledge limited subterranean chambers, while others dismiss the broader network as speculation, yet the accounts have never truly faded. The desert hides as much as it reveals, and sand, when it shifts, can uncover dark mouths of passages forgotten for millennia. There are also accounts from Mesopotamia, where cities such as Babylon and Ur are believed to have contained subterranean networks. Clay tablets sometimes reference hidden passages used by priests or royalty, secret routes to temples or storage rooms for sacred objects. In Babylon, the idea of the underworld was deeply symbolic, and it is possible that actual tunnels mirrored these beliefs, offering a physical way to descend into spaces associated with gods and spirits. To the ordinary inhabitant, these tunnels were inaccessible, reserved for rituals and mysteries beyond public view. Modern excavations have revealed portions of underground chambers, but legends persist of corridors that stretch far deeper, leading toward chambers filled with artifacts and treasures that have never been uncovered. Whether practical or symbolic, these tunnels reflect the human need to shape not only the visible world, but also the invisible one beneath. Further west, in Central America, the ancient Maya and other Mesoamerican cultures also carved their way beneath the earth. At Teotihuacan, archaeologists discovered a tunnel beneath the Temple of the Feathered Serpent, leading to chambers filled with offerings of jade, shells, and even pools of liquid mercury that shimmered like a representation of rivers or stars. This discovery suggests that ancient builders deliberately created hidden pathways to access what they believed were realms of gods, ancestors, and cosmic forces. The tunnels were not random, they were aligned with celestial events, part of a sacred geography, where above and below were mirrors of each other. To enter such tunnels was to journey between worlds, to descend not just physically but spiritually into a place where ordinary rules of space and time no longer applied. In South America, particularly in Peru, stories abound of tunnels that stretch for miles, linking sites across vast distances. Local legends describe passages that connect Cusco, the capital of the Inca Empire, to sacred sites like Sacsayhuaman, even extending toward Lake Titicaca. Explorers who tried to follow these tunnels often spoke of getting lost in labyrinths that seemed endless, where air grew thin and silence pressed heavily. Some claimed that entire expeditions disappeared within them, swallowed by the earth, never to return. For local people, these tunnels were dangerous places, entrances to hidden worlds not meant for human interference. Even today, many of these passages remain sealed, unexplored, or accessible only in fragments, their true extent hidden beneath centuries of collapse, sediment, and secrecy. Europe has its own network of legends. In the British Isles, stories tell of tunnels connecting ancient barrows and standing stones, secret routes used by druids or priestly classes to move unseen. In Turkey, the underground cities of Cappadocia provide a tangible example of how extensive such subterranean worlds could be. Carved into soft volcanic rock, these cities extend downward from multiple levels, complete with rooms, ventilation shafts, and passages that could shelter thousands of people. Though primarily used as refuge, the existence of such places reveals how skilled ancient peoples were in carving entire worlds beneath the surface. It also hints that many more such constructions may have existed elsewhere, now collapsed, forgotten, or buried beyond reach. The question that arises when considering these tunnels is why they were built. Practical explanations suggest they served as storage, hiding places, or escape routes in times of conflict. Religious interpretations argue that they were ritual spaces, sacred pathways meant for initiates to pass between the living world and the underworld. Then there are the speculative theories, those that suggest these tunnels were part of something much larger, a global network of underground pathways that connected civilizations separated by oceans and continents. To mainstream scholars, such theories stretch credibility, but to seekers of lost knowledge, they suggest that humanity's past was far more interconnected than we admit. with tunnels serving as arteries of a hidden system of travel and communication. Some explorers have even suggested that the tunnels are older than the civilizations that later inhabited them. According to this view, cultures like the Egyptians, the Incas, or the Maya might have discovered and reused passages that were already there, remnants of a prehistoric age now forgotten. In myths from around the world, there are stories of races that lived beneath the earth, beings who guided or interacted with humanity, emerging only occasionally to share knowledge or issue warnings. Whether these tales are symbolic or point to an actual lost tradition of subterranean life, they remain intertwined with the tunnels themselves, giving them an aura of otherworldly origin. Descriptions of hidden tunnels often emphasize their uncanny qualities. Walls that seem too smooth, as if carved by a technology more advanced than chisels. Corridors that maintain precise angles for long distances, sometimes aligned with stars or solstices above. Chambers where sound carries in strange ways, creating echoes that confuse direction or amplify whispers into thunderous booms. In some cases, underground passages have been found containing not only artifacts, but also skeletal remains arranged in unusual positions, suggesting that they were not simply storage or utility spaces, but sites of ritual activity. The blending of practicality and spirituality in these tunnels makes them enigmatic, both functional and symbolic, existing in a space where mundane and sacred purposes intersect. The secrecy surrounding them adds another layer. Throughout history, rulers and priestly classes often guarded knowledge of hidden spaces. Access to tunnels was restricted, and the ability to move unseen beneath the earth would have been a powerful tool. It allowed elites to escape danger, to appear suddenly in distant temples, to protect treasures or texts that might otherwise be destroyed. In this way, tunnels were both physical and political instruments, shaping how power was maintained. Those who controlled the hidden pathways controlled not only resources, but also the perception of supernatural authority. For to ordinary people, the ability to vanish into the earth and reappear elsewhere must have seemed nothing short of magical. Modern technology has begun to reveal fragments of what lies hidden. Ground-penetrating radar, seismic surveys, and satellite imaging occasionally detect anomalies beneath ancient sites, voids, cavities, or linear features that suggest tunnels. Yet, in many cases, exploration is halted by practical dangers of collapse or by official restrictions meant to protect the stability of monuments above. As a result, much remains unseen, tantalizing hints rather than full revelations. Each discovery fuels the sense that beneath the world we know lies another, carved by hands we cannot fully identify, for purposes we cannot entirely explain. In contemplating these hidden tunnels and pathways, one senses the persistence of an ancient instinct. Humanity has always sought to move both upward and downward, to climb into the skies with towers and pyramids, and to dig into the earth with tunnels and caves. Both directions seem to carry symbolic weight, one toward the heavens, the other toward the underworld. To move through a tunnel is to journey into the unknown, to enter a liminal space between worlds, to leave the ordinary surface behind and step into a domain of shadow and silence, where the rules of the visible world no longer apply. It is this quality, perhaps more than any practical function, that gives the tunnels their aura of mystery, their sense of being not just structures but symbols, whispers carved into stone by civilizations that knew how to write stories not only in texts, but also in the very bones of the earth. Across the landscapes of our planet, scattered as if placed by unseen hands, there are spheres of stone that have baffled archaeologists, travelers, and storytellers for centuries. Perfectly rounded, sometimes massive in scale, sometimes small enough to be carried, they appear in regions far apart from one another, from the jungles of Central America to the plains of Costa Rica, from the deserts of Mexico to the highlands of Bosnia, from isolated islands in the Pacific to the forests of Russia. Their existence poses a quiet question that lingers at the edge of history. Who made these spheres? Why did they shape them with such precision, and what purpose did they serve? Unlike pyramids or temples, they do not display carvings, inscriptions, or clear iconography. They sit in silence, mute and inscrutable, their smooth curves defying both the natural forces that shape rocks and the simple explanations that scholars attempt to apply to them. Perhaps the most famous examples are the stone spheres of Costa Rica, discovered in the early 20th century when banana plantations were being cleared for agricultural expansion. These spheres appeared suddenly, emerging from the soil as workers burned and bulldozed their way through dense vegetation. At first they were treated as curiosities, some even rolled aside or dynamited in search of treasures thought to be hidden inside. What astonished those who examined them more closely was their precision. Many of the spheres were nearly perfect in their roundness, some measuring only a few inches in diameter, while others reached over 2 meters across and weighed several tons. They were carved from granite and other hard stones, materials that would have required not only immense effort, but also considerable skill to shape into such regular forms. The indigenous cultures of the region did not leave behind written records to explain them, and so their purpose remains shrouded in speculation. Were they symbols of status, markers of territory, astronomical instruments, or sacred objects? The absence of context leaves the question unanswered. Further north, in Mexico, Guatemala, and El Salvador, smaller stone spheres have been found, often associated with ancient sites, sometimes in isolation, sometimes in clusters. The peoples of Mesoamerica were skilled stoneworkers, but the appearance of these rounded objects again raises questions about intent. Unlike tools or weapons, spheres have no obvious utility, and yet great effort was expended to create them. Some theories suggest they may have been used in rituals, perhaps rolled in ceremonial processions, or placed as guardians of sacred spaces. Others wonder whether they might have represented planets or celestial bodies, miniature reflections of the heavens placed upon the earth. Ancient societies often mirrored the cosmos in their architecture and artifacts, so the possibility that these spheres symbolized the order of the universe cannot be dismissed. Still, without inscriptions or explicit depictions, such interpretations remain speculative. In Bosnia, the discovery of large stone spheres in riverbeds and hillsides has drawn attention in recent years. Some measure over 1 meter in diameter, composed of dense stone that shows signs of deliberate shaping. Local legends speak of these spheres as remnants of a forgotten age, artifacts of a civilization erased from memory. Mainstream geologists argue that many may be natural formations, created by concretion processes that can form rounded shapes over geological time. Yet, others insist that their uniformity and placement suggest human involvement. The debate illustrates the difficulty in separating natural from artificial when confronted with objects that sit in the ambiguous space between geology and archaeology. Whether natural stones later venerated by humans or entirely human-made, they continue to carry a sense of mystery, a presence that demands explanation but resists easy answers. On remote Easter Island, famous for its monumental statues, there are also spherical stones scattered across the landscape. Some are small, some larger, and their presence has fueled speculation that the builders of the Moai also understood and employed the symbolism of the sphere. In Polynesian traditions, spheres often represented completeness, the sun, or the continuity of cycles. To place them alongside towering statues may have been a way to balance vertical and horizontal symbols, uniting different aspects of their worldview. The idea that spheres, in their perfection, symbolized wholeness and eternity resonates across cultures, suggesting a universal human attraction to the form. In New Zealand, the Maori tell stories of round stones known as the Moaraki boulders, scattered along beaches where they appear like giant marbles half buried in sand. These are understood by science to be natural concretions, yet their striking shapes have inspired myths of ancestral canoes turned to stone, or baskets and food that solidified into rock. Here, even when nature alone shaped them, human imagination transformed them into artifacts of meaning. The same may have occurred in other regions. Natural round stones may have inspired humans to attempt replication, to carve their own in imitation of the natural perfection they observed. In this blending of natural form and human craft, the mystery of stone spheres deepens rather than resolves. The process of creating such spheres, particularly the large ones of Costa Rica, would not have been simple. Granite and other hard stones resist shaping, requiring persistent hammering, pecking, grinding, and polishing with tools made of equally hard materials. To achieve near perfect roundness would have demanded careful measurement, patience, and generations of skill passed down. Why would so much effort be devoted to producing objects that, to the modern eye, serve no obvious function? The answer likely lies in symbolism. For ancient people, forms carried meanings beyond utility. A circle or a sphere could represent eternity, the sun, the moon, the cycle of seasons, the balance of existence. To embody such concepts in stone, permanent and enduring, was to give physical form to abstract truths, ensuring they would outlast the frailty of memory. Clusters of spheres suggest deliberate placement. Some were found arranged in lines, others grouped in circles, as if marking boundaries or creating symbolic patterns on the ground. In Costa Rica, spheres have been found aligned with the setting of the sun on solstices, hinting at astronomical significance. Such alignments remind us that ancient societies often integrated their understanding of the heavens into their monuments. The spheres may have served as markers in rituals tied to agricultural cycles, guiding planting and harvest through their relationship to the sky. In this sense, they were not merely objects but instruments, silent participants in the rhythms of community life. Beyond practical and symbolic uses, there is also the possibility that the spheres were emblems of power. To command the labor required to produce them would have been a display of authority. They may have been placed in front of homes of chiefs or in ceremonial plazas as signs of status. Possessing such an object would have set one apart, a visible marker of influence and wealth. In societies where hierarchy was reinforced by material displays, a massive stone sphere might have been the ultimate statement of permanence and control, a reminder that power, like stone, endures. The silence of the spheres is what makes them most haunting. Unlike carved stelae, they do not speak in words. Unlike statues, they do not depict recognizable figures. They are pure form, stripped of narrative, leaving interpretation entirely to the observer. This universality allows them to be read in countless ways, and perhaps that was their purpose, to be open symbols, adaptable across generations, their meaning shifting yet always carrying an aura of significance. Even today, standing before one of these spheres, a visitor feels compelled to assign meaning, to sense that they are not accidents, but messages in a language we no longer understand. Modern science has attempted to explain them through geological processes, cultural anthropology, and experimental archaeology. While some spheres may indeed be natural concretions, the level of precision and scale of others strongly suggests deliberate human creation. The fact that they appear in multiple regions around the world complicates the narrative. Did cultures separated by oceans independently arrive at the same idea of shaping stone into spheres? Or was there a deeper connection, a shared symbolic impulse that transcended geography? The recurrence of the form suggests that the sphere held universal appeal, a geometry that resonated across human experience. Its symmetry, its completeness, its resemblance to celestial bodies may have made it the most powerful form through which ancient peoples could express their relationship with the cosmos. Legends around the spheres often attribute to them hidden powers. In Costa Rica, some local traditions spoke of the spheres containing gold or secrets, which led to their destruction by treasure seekers. In other regions, they are believed to ward off evil, to hold energies, or to serve as protective talismans. In modern times, some enthusiasts suggest they may have been part of a forgotten technology, resonating with sound or energy fields, aligned to the Earth in ways we no longer comprehend. While such theories are speculative, they reflect the enduring fascination with these objects, the sense that their simplicity hides something profound. To encounter a stone sphere is to be confronted with time itself. The surface, weathered by centuries of rain and sun, carries the weight of ages. The shape, unchanging, evokes permanence in a world of decay. Unlike crumbling walls or collapsing temples, a sphere resists erosion with stoic endurance, its form inherently strong against the forces of nature. Perhaps that is part of its meaning, the desire to create something that endures, that outlasts even the civilization that shaped it. In their stillness, the spheres are reminders of human aspiration to transcend mortality, to inscribe meaning into the eternal material of the earth.